Welcome to another video in the Overhead Cost Management playlist. In this video, I will continue explaining points related to internal order settlement. So today, I will explain the allocation structure, which allows us to control the level of detail we see in the receiving cost objects after we do the internal order settlement. So today, I will explain what is an allocation structure, how to configure it, and I will show a demo on SAP S4HANA. When we run internal order settlement, we move the costs from the internal order into the receiving cost objects, as I explained before. So let's say, for example, we have an internal order that we created for a marketing campaign. And there we have 10 different cost elements that we posted during the campaign. Now, when we run this internal order settlement, in the receiving cost object, let's say, for example, the receiving cost center 1000, if we run a report, what do we want to see? If we want to see only one line item for all the costs that were settled from the internal order, then we can use a secondary cost element. And then when we run the report in the cost center 1000, we will only see one line item, for example, saying marketing cost settlement. And this line item will have all the costs settled from the internal order. We can also say that we want to see all the expenses in detail. So every single cost element that was in the internal order, we want to see it in the receiving cost object when we run the report there. So when I run a report in the cost center 1000, I would like to see all the details. Every single cost element that was settled from the internal order, I want to see there. We can also say that we want to mix and match. So for example, the three first cost elements, I want to see them in one line. The two other cost elements, I want to see them in another line, and then the rest, I would like to see them in detail. So in this case, we will say that for the first three cost elements, we want to assign them to the secondary cost element, and then the second other cost elements, we want to assign to another cost element, and then the last cost elements, we want to settle using the same cost element that was used in the initial posting. All of this we can do in the allocation structure. It is very simple to use. Now let's switch to SAP S4HANA and I will show you a demo on SAP Fiori and also the configuration on SAP GUI on how we can configure an allocation structure and then use it in internal order settlement. Here I have my SAP Fiori and I will start by showing you the master data of the internal order I will use today. I have already shown all of these steps in previous videos, but in every video I like to have a full end-to-end demo, so that's why I will repeat, but I will go faster. So to display the internal order master data, go to Manage Internal Orders. The internal order I'm using today is in company code AG00 as usual, and the internal order number is 400-121. Marketing campaign January 24. So this is our internal order. If I click here and then go to Manage Internal Orders, this will take us to the internal order master data. So this order has order type 400, internal order marketing. And then if we go down, there is nothing special about this order. It's completely normal like all the other orders we created before. Now, if I go here to display settlement rule, I have already created the settlement rule for this order to settle the order to two different cost centers, 1000 and 2000. Very simple as explained before also. So cost center 1000 will take 30%, 2000 will take 70%. Now to display the settlement parameters, which include the allocation structure and the source structure, we go to More and then go to Settlement Parameters. Here we can see we have the settlement profile 20, we have the allocation structure G00, and I'm not using any source structure. Source structure I already explained in the last video, so there is no need to show it again this time. So this time we are going to focus on the allocation structure, and I'm using allocation structure G00. Now let's switch to another report that will show us all the cost elements that are posted to this internal order. So I will leave the master data open here in this tab. And now let's switch to another tab. And I will run the report internal order plan versus actual. Here, as you see, the report opened with data already saved in it because I have saved it as a separate tile before I do this demo. So here we have the fiscal year 2024, category ACT01, posting period 002, company code AG00, and the order number, and we have a very nice layout here. The way I do this, the way I save my own layout for any tile, is by clicking here and click on save as a tile, and here you can insert any title you want, subtitle, and then add it to a group in your home page, in your Fiori Launchpad. And then whenever you run this tile, it will open up with the selection criteria that you already have. Very useful, and it saves a lot of time. So here in our internal order today, in the month of February, we have all of these cost elements. So cafeteria clearing, maintenance, cleaning supplies, food expense, and so on. Now for our demo, let's say that the cost elements from 10 until 14 will be included in one cost element. So when we display the report in the receiving cost center 1000, we want to see all of these 3 lines only in one line item. And let's say that the other 3 line items starting from 12 until 21, this will be in another cost element. And then the cafeteria clearing 20, I want to see alone separately in the receiving cost center. So this one will not use any secondary cost element. It will go using this cost element to the receiving cost object. I will leave this screen open so this way it can be clear what we are doing. And now I will switch again to another screen, but this time let's go to SAP GUI and start configuring our allocation structure to meet our requirement here. Here is my SAP GUI, and to go to the configuration, I will use the transaction SPRO. This will take us to the configuration menu, then click on SAP Reference IMG, and then go to controlling, internal orders, actual posting, settlement, and then here go to maintain allocation structure. First, of course, you can display all the help document by clicking here as usual. Now I will go directly into the transaction. Here we have the different allocation structures that are already configured. If you would like to create a new allocation structure, you can click on new entries, and then you insert a code and a description. Now the one I'm using today is G00, so I will select the line and then click on assignments and start configuring the allocation structure. First step is to create the assignment lines. For every secondary cost element we would like to use, we have to create a separate assignment line, because for every assignment line, we can only assign one secondary cost element, and we will see this after. So now, in our case, I would like to use 2 different secondary cost elements, so I have to create 2 assignment lines. I also have to create a separate assignment line for the cost elements that I would like to transfer using the same cost element, without using any secondary cost elements. So we need 3 different assignment lines in our case. So let's say the first one will be 10, and let's call this secondary cost element 1. The second one is 20, and let's call this secondary cost element 2. And the third one is 30, and let's call it primary cost elements. Now I will start assigning the cost elements and the secondary cost elements to each of these. So first I will select the first line, then go to source. So here we say that from this cost element until this cost element, or for this cost element group, and then we go to settlement cost element, and here we specify the secondary cost element we are going to use. So now if I switch back to my report for the internal order line items, so here we said that 10, 14, and 11 will be under one cost element. So in this case, if I switch back to SAP GUI, in the source, I should here mention 10, 11, and 14, but now I can either insert values from and to, and this will include a range. Can also include one cost element if I insert only the from, or if I want to choose different cost elements that are not in a range, then I have to use a cost element group. This is my case now, so let's switch back to SAP Fiori and create the cost element groups. So here I'm going to create a cost element group for 11, 14, and 10. So now I will switch to another tab, and I will go to the application, manage cost element groups. And here I'm going to create a new group. So first click on create. Cost element group, let's call this one Jan 24-1. Demo Jan 24. And here I'm going to insert a lower level group, and this group I will call group 1, Jan 24-1, 1. And I will also create another one, same level. And this one will be Jan 24-12. So this one will include the first 3 cost elements, and this one will include the second 3 cost elements. Then to assign a cost element, we click on the group here, and then click on cost element. This will open the window. So now we are in the second group. This is okay. So let's go here. So the second group will include 12 and 13 and 21. So let's switch back. 310012, 3100, see, 12, 13, and 21. 13 and 310021. So these are the three cost elements in the second group. Now I will go to the first group here and then click on cost element. So now we insert the cost elements for the first group. Let's see. So we have 10, 14, and 11. 310010, 310014, and 310011. So now these are these cost elements included in the first group. Now that we are done, we can click on save. The changes have been saved, and now we can use these cost element groups. So let's switch back to SAP GUI. And here in the cost element group, I will use Jan 24-11. So this is our first group. So now we have assigned the cost element group into the assignment line. The second thing is to assign the secondary cost element that we are going to use. So I will switch here to settlement cost element and then click on new entries. Receiver category is cost center. So now I'm saying that when I settle to cost centers, I would like to use this secondary cost element. We can also say when we settle to, for example, other internal orders, or we settle to WBS elements, whatever settlement object category we use, we can assign a different settlement cost element. If I want to use the same primary cost element for the settlement, then I click on here. So now let's continue. So we have receiver category CTR, settlement cost element. I have already created the settlement cost elements. I will show you the master data of them, but now let me choose it first. I don't remember the name, so it was, yeah, this one. So this is my first secondary cost element I use for the settlement. Now let me switch to SAP Fiori and show you the master data of this secondary cost element. And I will switch to another tab and open the application Manage GL Account Master Data. Here I will insert the chart of account AG00 and the GL account number, and then click on Go. So here is our GL account. I also have another one which is 921031 or 32. So this is our secondary cost element, the second one. Go. So I have IO settlement and IO settlement 2. If I display any of them, both of them have the same definition. So if we click here, master data of the cost element or the GL account. So here we have the GL account type is secondary costs, account group is SEC. And if we go down here, or if we switch to controlling data, we can see cost element category 21. 21 is order settlement. So this is the cost element category. Now let's switch back to our configuration for the allocation structure and continue. So here's SAP GUI. So this is our first cost element. So now we are saying that the cost elements that are included in the group that we assigned in the source, that are included in this group, should be settled using this secondary cost element when we settle to cost centers. Now let's create the second assignment line. So let's go back to assignments. So now this one is green, it's okay, it has been completely assigned. Now the second one, 20, let's go here and click on source. So this one will use the second group, which is Jan 24-12. So these are the cost elements groups we created. And then go to the settlement cost element. And this one will be settled using, so also to the cost centers, will be settled using the second cost element, which ends with 2. IO settlement 2. So now for the second group of cost elements, they will be settled using this secondary cost element. Now let's go back to the assignments As you see now, the second line is also green. The third line is still yellow, so we still need to assign it. So let's click here, go to source. Now this one should also include some cost elements. So let's go back to SAP Fiori and go to create cost element groups. Let's go here. So this one we should include 20 and 21, or only 20. So we only have one cost element, 310020, that we would like to transfer to the receiving cost objects with the same cost element. So there is no need for a group because it's only one. So let's go back to SAP GUI and insert this cost element. So in this allocation structure, in this assignment, I will insert here the cost element and then go to the settlement cost elements, new entries. So for the receiver category CTR, I would like to settle by cost element. So now by doing this, I'm telling SAP that this cost element will be transferred using itself. So the same cost element will transfer without using any secondary cost elements. So now if we go back to assignments, the three lines are green. So now the first one will be for a certain group of cost elements. We'll use the first secondary cost element. The second line will be for another group of cost elements and we'll use another secondary cost element. And third line will use the primary cost elements and only includes one GL account. So now I'm going to save this allocation structure. And now let's switch back to SAP Fiori and run our settlement to see the result of what we did. So here we have our internal order. Let's just check the settlement rules first again. So the settlement rule is to cost center 1000 and 2000, and it is 30% and 70%. And again, if we go here to go to settlement parameters, we can see the allocation structure G00 is assigned there, which is the allocation structure we just created. Now let's go to internal order settlement. So I will go here to the launchpad, overhead cost management, and to settle the internal order, we will use the application run settlement, which we used already before in multiple demos. Here the order is 400121. Settlement period is 2, fiscal year is 2024, and the processing type is automatic. I already explained automatic by period and partial and full settlement in another video. So if you would like to know what this means, you can check the other videos in the playlist. Now I will start by running a test run. We can also check the settlement rule from here and then click on execute. So settlement executed 1, we don't have any errors. We can click on detail list and this will show us the results. So we have cost center 1000 is taking this value and cost center 2000 is taking this value. If we go to sender, we can see here the different cost elements that were posted to the internal order and the different values. And then if we go back, we can also go to receiver, and this will show us what are the secondary cost elements that are being used. And this will show us the results that we'll see in the receiving cost objects after the settlement is done. So for cost center 1000, we are going to see 3 lines. One line for the cost element 3120, which we configured to be settled using the same cost element. And then we have another line for the secondary cost element 30 and another line for the secondary cost element 32. So these are the 3 assignment lines we had in our allocation structure. So it's working fine. And then here for 2000, we will have the same. So we'll have 3 lines. Now let's go back and run the settlement. So remove the test run and execute. Before we do so, let's generate a report for the cost center to see what we have before and then to see what we have after. And here I will run the application display cost center line items in GL. So this is display GL account line items, but I created a different variant that meets my selection criteria. So I will click here. Here we have the ledger 0L, company code AG00, posting date this quarter. I will change this to this month for February. And then we have the controlling area. And here I will insert the cost center 1000 and then click on go. So now we don't have any line items in our cost center in February. Now let's run the settlement and then run this report again and see what we receive here. So I'll go back to actual settlement. So I have removed the test run, then click on execute. Now the settlement has been done. Let's switch to display line items in the cost center and then click on go again. Now if we open this, here we can see only 3 line items. for one for 120, second for the secondary cost element 30, and the third for the secondary cost element 32. Each line will include the values posted using the line. So now you understand the importance of the allocation structure. This is a very simple demo, but imagine when you have a cost center that has hundreds of lines of cost elements. And you would like to have a report that is detailed to your needs. So sometimes you want to see all the costs that are settled under one line. So in this case, you use a secondary cost element. In other cases, there are expenses that are very important that you want to see in detail in the receiving cost center. So in this case, you use transfer with the primary cost element. Also, be careful that when you use the transfer using the same cost element, like in this case, this cost will be summed together with any other cost that's in the cost center. So for example, if we have other cafeteria cleaning expense that was posted directly to the cost center, and now we posted other cafeteria cleaning expense that were settled from the internal order, if I run a report like this without seeing the details, I will see all the costs that are posted to this cost element in one line, including the costs that were settled and the other costs that are originally posted to the cost center. So if this is not convenient, then you do the settlement using a secondary cost element. This way, you separate the cost that was settled from the cost that was posted directly to the cost center. So now you understand completely what is the use of the allocation structure, how to configure it, how to use it in your settlement rule, and how to run settlement and display the result in the cost center reports. One more note before we end the video: all the configuration details that I explained in this video and all the other configuration details that I explained in the other videos are included in the configuration manual that I share with the elite members. So if you are an elite member or a platinum member, then you can go to the configuration documents, and here you will find the S4HANA AG from Zero configuration manual that I update with every video. So the last update was in January 2024. If you open here, you will find in the table of contents everything you need, and if you go down, you will find all the details of the configuration steps to do to be able to run the demo the same way I did, starting from how to create your own company code to be similar to the one I am using, AG00, until you run this demo that I did today. So if you are an elite or a platinum member, don't forget to check the configuration manual. Also, send me any questions you have in the Slack group. And if you are not a member yet and you'd like to get access to this configuration document and also to our private chat group that we have in Slack, then you can check the channel membership program. I will leave you a link here. I hope the video is easy to understand. Don't forget to leave me your questions and your comments. Also share the video with your connections, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.